Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to the Media Literacy Guidebook. Today's lesson includes extraction of the third dimension, a touch of editing, and ways to manipulate your audience's responses. Last time we left off on a question. Why is extracting the third dimension from the second dimension so difficult? The answer here is simple. Complexity. Huh? Okay, let's explain. So the extraction of the third dimension from the two-dimensional outline is complex because there's 4 ways that we comprehend the third dimension. Number 1, binocular disparity. This is the difference between the image formed in the left eye and the one formed in the right eye. This stereoscopic vision provides a powerful sense of depth and allows you to see more fully. Number 2, motion parallax. The amount of change brought about when we change the relative position of the viewer in regard to the object being viewed. In other words, objects close by move across our field of vision quicker than those far away. Three, texture gradients. Apparent changes in the density of regular patterns with distance. Straight parallel lines merge into a dense pattern as they grow far away. And 4, occlusion. This is the blockage of view of one object by another. This gives clear clues as to which object is closer, and again, shows depth. 2 of the above components of depth perception cannot be visible in still pictures. Can you guess which 2? If you said binocular disparity and motion parallax, you'd be right. There's no real way to replicate that using still images. On the other hand, TV and film bring us motion parallax. It's easier for even the inexperienced viewer to perceive depth. Now, given all this, we can see that pictures reduce complex objects to a more elementary form, with a lot of detail omitted by virtue of the medium. Viewers can take this information and compare it against a sort of dictionary of objects in their brains. We can surmise texture, state, size, and so on using all of this information. So we know that complex media involves interplay of pictures, speech, music, sound effects, superimposed titles, and so on. But how do we put all this together? Editing provides a means of presenting easily comprehensible messages even to inexperienced viewers. A succession of images, carefully chosen, provides meaning and context. Consider these 2 different situations. 1. Editing, or other transitions within a single location and time frame, also including POV, or point of view. And 2. Transitions across time and space, which we'll discuss in a future video. For now, we'll look at some devices that work across a single location and time frame. How does that help give meaning? Well, it can create a coherent image by using various partial views of the same thing from different angles. Think sports replays and different cuts used to show the same event. Early filmmakers avoided this, fearing that the cuts might confuse unaccustomed viewers. When they cut to another shot, they would cue it first with an actor looking off screen to key the shot transition, so the audience would know that that new shot is of the same scene. This kind of editing evolved over time. It turns out that the synthesizing of a sequence to partial views into a larger coherent whole is not problematic, even for inexperienced viewers. This is based on the fact that we make sense of our environment by successive glances in various directions. It also helps to show a character's non-verbalized thoughts and emotions just by juxtaposition of facial close-ups and contextual clues. So a hurt dog, a sad boy face, a menacing person, a concerned fear face, and so on. Generally speaking, the best visual device for the representation of emotion is facial expression. We can tell a lot of what's going on through body language. To make sense of facial expression, we combine its message with information provided by the rest of the body, aka acting, and the context in which the expression occurs. When these thoughts are visual, as in dreams, memories, or hallucinations, we can show those as flashbacks. This is so effective that a Soviet filmmaker, Lev Kuleshov, pioneered a technique called the Kuleshov effect. This is an editing technique that relies on the audience's interpretation of what is shown on the screen. Put another way, it highlights a mental phenomenon in that the audience derives more meaning from 2 sequential shots interacting with each other than from a single shot in isolation. For more information on the Kuleshov effect, check out Folding Ideas video on the subject. I'll link it in the below there part. Finally, it can show emphasis and emotional tone through positioning the camera close or far from the scene's action. This is the main tool for the director and/or the cinematographer to control the audience's involvement in the scene. Tight close-ups encourage audience identification or empathy with a character, while distant shots might encourage isolation or loneliness. The camera will move in for a climax and pull back as tension is released. This is related to how intimacy in real life is often linked to physical distance. This is called proxemics, but we'll get back to this in just a moment. Now that we have some understanding of the techniques used to convey cohesion and emotion, it's time to shift to ways to evoke the reaction that you want from your audience. It should be noted that this isn't done out of malice. Your intent in your work might be to make people scared, feel hope, make them laugh, and so on. It's easier to accomplish this while considering the following techniques. Number 1. The paraproxemic principle. This follows real-world conventions regarding links between physical closeness and intimacy, or the means of interpreting social meaning of interpersonal distance and orientation. Proxemics is the area of communication research dealing with social meaning of interpersonal distance and orientation. Now, this could be the audience's sense of intimacy with a character being enhanced by a close-up, or related to a subjective camera meeting a framing scene through the eyes of a participant, just for a couple of examples. Quick sidebar, but studies show commercials using subjective camera tend to be more persuasive. In fact, subjective cameras typically present a white male point of view, hence some of the objectifying and stereotyping of women and bi POC seen in films. 2. False continuity. These are two shots joined together in a narrative as seen by the viewer as being part of a coherent stream of action even when they're not. This is the basic principle behind most narrative edits. Shots are joined together to form a larger narrative, which is then interpreted by the viewer as taking place within one constant stream of time and space, even if this might not be the case. With fiction, false continuity allows us to create a fictive reality. With nonfiction, however, it raises questions of visual manipulation and the need for critical viewing skills. This is hard to detect on first viewing, but it does get easier to spot in time. 3. Associational juxtaposition. Juxtaposition of a product or candidate with an image of an object or person the audience has a positive feeling for. This is one of the most common tools of advertising, associating brands with emotions. Think Coca-Cola and Santa Claus, Nintendo or Sega with childhood nostalgia, Starbucks with your favorite holiday drinks that you look forward to every year. This is textbook manipulation, and it works. Consider political ads. The candidate might be framed with American flags, eagles, wide open fields, Niagara Falls, and the like. Visuals of those symbols of America with the candidate suggests that this candidate is related to those values, that they'll stick up to those values. As an example,
there is only one America. No Democratic rivers. No Republican mountains. Just this great land and all that's possible on it, with a fresh start. Cures we can find. Futures we can shape. Work to reward. Dignity to protect. There is so much we can do if we choose to take on problems and not each other, and choose a president who brings out our best. Joe Biden doesn't need everyone in this country to always agree. Just to agree, we all love this country. And go from there.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
We'll stop here for today as we covered quite a bit for one umbrella topic. Always remember that, as with any media, part of the point is to evoke emotions from your audience, to get them to smile, cry, laugh, or scream, as the case may be. It's okay to do this. It's not necessarily a bad thing on its own, but you also have to consider the intentions behind your work as well. Are you trying to tell a compelling narrative, or sell a product? Where do your personal ethics fall into this? Answer this for yourself. I have a bunch of fun and interesting recommended media for you today, so let's jump right in. First, The 7 Laws of Film Editing from the YouTube channel This Guy Edits. While the title is of course hyperbolic, it does touch on a lot of principles of editing that tie into what we discussed here today. While we're on the subject of editing, sometimes you learn by watching what not to do. 2 videos which explore this are Thomas Flight's Bohemian Rhapsody's Terrible Editing, a Breakdown, and Folding Ideas pops back in with their video, The Art of Editing and Suicide Squad. Both videos are excellent in-depth looks at why the editing done for these 2 films just didn't work and actively harmed the films. Failure can be a great teacher if you let it. If editing is something that you're at all interested in, I suggest you checking all of those videos out. Our next lesson, we're going to look at the basics of light, color, and how your eyes process this information. Being a visual culture, understanding how light and color can affect and influence us leads to a much better understanding in turn of how media works. As always, if you have any questions, are looking for more information, or want me to discuss specific topics, leave a comment for me in the down there part. I look forward to your questions and your discussions, so let me know what's on your mind. See you next time. So hey, this video was a long time in coming out. In the beginning of October, I had a really bad back spasm to the point where for about a week I couldn't get out of bed or do anything. So I had to get an MRI done and visit a whole bunch of doctors. And it turns out that I've got 2 herniated discs and arthritis in my back. So there was a lot of pain, needless to say. And I had spent some time recovering. So that's why there hasn't been a video for media literacy since October. I appreciate your patience on this. It's really hard trying to get back into recover and to take care of a lot of personal things that happened. So thank you for waiting. As always, once again, big thank you to my patrons. I really appreciate your financial support. It helps me pay for the Adobe suite, which is what I need to put all this together. I'm fortunate enough to have the student discount, but obviously that won't last forever, so every little bit of that helps. So once again, thank you so much for your support. This couldn't be possible without viewers like you, so thank you so much. If I can steal from PBS for a second. Thank you for supporting the channel. As always, if you like what you see, please consider liking the video, sharing it, subscribing, and if you feel like this is worth $1 or $2, head on over to my Patreon and join my wonderful patrons there already, and throw a couple bucks my way. It really does help, so thank you. So, I will see you next time for the next video, whatever that might be. Take care of yourselves.